back again. So uh, the first thing you should be seeing when you create a new project and it is an empty scene, right? It's right here. It's called the sample scene. Your project window should have the scene itself, all right? If uh, you might have a different layout, I've already mentioned that you can change that by hitting the layout button right here, and then you can switch it to whatever layout that you feel comfortable with. My preference is 2 by 3 as I mentioned, and I moved the window right here, and I've saved the layout that I really like. It's right here. So first things first, let's set up the level design so it's akin to the Rollerball tutorial, basically. Try to implement the features related to Rollerball, for example, the score system, as well as the player movement or ball movement, uh, collectibles like the cubes themselves, and perhaps a bit of UI by displaying the score UI on the screen. All right, so first things first, I've got the hierarchy right here. And now I can create new objects that I want to place in the scene itself. I want to create first a plane, which is basically the ground that the ball is going to sit on. And let's just call this ground. All right, let me just move my mic a bit. Okay, and let's create the sphere. 3D object sphere. Where is it? I can double click it. It's not at the root, so I'm moving it there. For some reason, the plane is also not in the root, so I'm simply going to reset its transform again. All right, we've got them all in the middle. You can see them right here. Now, both of them are white. I want to be able to distinguish between these different objects, so I can easily create a new folder, call it materials, and then create a new material. You can press M on your keyboard as a shortcut. Okay, and let's call this ground material. All right, and the ground material, I'd like it to be green right here. Okay. I'm doing the changes by looking at the inspector window, and then in basically on it, it really depends on the object's type. So, for example, if I'm selecting the camera, the inspector is going to be different in terms of the components on the camera. As you can see, the main camera contains the transform plus the camera component that has its own variables that I can change. It also has the audio listener. The directional light contains different components, but if you notice, each object has a transform. That means that whatever object that you place within the scene is going to have XYZ coordinates. All right. So the reason why it's not showing here is that because these are assets, these are not objects on the scene. Even when you place them, these are simply references of the asset themselves. All right, so I want to place this ground material on the plane. If we head over to the ground, I can see that there is a mesh renderer, which is basically saying that I have this 3D object and I'm showing it right here. It's the plane, okay? And the material that it's using is default material. When I click on it, as you can see, it's right there. And this is the default material. As you can see, it's the white material on top of the ground object. I could simply click here and choose from the different materials in the project, or I can simply drag and drop. All right, let's do the same thing for the ball. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to call this ball material, and let's make it yellow. Making it yellow. There you go. Dropped it on the ball. Let's make the ball hover a bit, as in 2. All right, on the y-axis. Now, I've got the ball right here, and I've got the game object for the ball. And as you can see, yes, I'm rendering the 3D mesh, okay? The 3D model, let's call it, for this object, all right, which is a ball. And in addition to that, I have the sphere collider. Now, the purpose of colliders within Unity is to, let me just show you for a bit. Yeah, it is to allow the object itself to detect if there is collision between it and any other object. So basically, I want the ball to not go through the ground here, right? So it's gonna need a collider. How can I test that? I need to be able to simulate physics within the game, right? So in here, we know that the ball itself, let's call it ball rather than sphere, ball, we know that the ball is moving. I'm allowing the player to move the ball by way of using a joystick or WASD, for example, to move it. And anything in Unity that needs to simulate physics, whether it's bullets, balls, or cars, or anything similar to that, it needs to have a rigid body. And the purpose of the rigid body, don't confuse it with rigid body 2D. Rigid body, which is for 3D, the purpose of it, once you look at it, and you can also open the documentation by clicking on the question mark. The purpose of it is to give something a mass, all right, weight, and then allow it to be simulated using the physics system in Unity. So what's going to happen right now, because I've added the rigid body component to the ball, it's going to simulate physics in a sense that I can play the game and the ball is going to drop. All right, I can tilt the plane right here. It's going to move to the other side. Is it? Okay, I can't do this in one time apparently, but yeah, you get my drift basically. So when I stop it right now, let me just move the ground again. Oh no, this way and run it. There you go. All right, and it's gonna fall to infinity. If you click on the ball itself, as you can see in the y-axis from the position value right here, you're gonna notice that it's just gonna continue falling forever. Okay, because I'm simulating physics within the game. All right,